She'd been told plenty of times that she didn't belong. That tone, that dismissive arrogance, stuck to her now as she stood just inside the main gate of the Naval Academy. A warm spit stain dried on the collar of her jacket, left there by someone who hadn't earned the right to shine the brass on her shoes, let alone question her presence. 4 midshipmen wandered off laughing, already forgetting the civilian woman they'd mocked moments before. Lieutenant Commander Nora Calloway didn't flinch. If anything, the sting of the insult felt familiar. The salty breeze off the Chesapeake Bay tugged her dark hair across her cheek as she adjusted her jacket, the same pocket where her active-duty Navy ID stayed hidden, along with the orders sending her back here after more than a decade at sea. It had been 11 years since she'd walked these paths as a midshipman. 11 years since she marched across this yard in rigid formation. Too proud to admit she sometimes stared up at the heavens and wondered whether she could survive long enough to see her commission pinned. Now those same young faces walked past her with blind certainty, and she could almost taste the memories of being that young, that sure, that unaware of what the real fleet was like. She'd graduated top of her class in nuclear engineering, qualified surface warfare, Pacific tours, med tours. Watches stood in the boiling heart of a nuclear propulsion plant while the ship slammed against typhoon seas near Okinawa. Long nights supporting Marines ashore in contested waters. And that night in the Strait of Hormuz, the night that changed everything. The night she kept a damaged destroyer alive while chaos burned through the passageways and missiles traced arcs over the horizon. The Navy Commendation Medal, with the small, fierce bronze V pinned to her uniform afterward, told a fraction of the story. But none of that was stitched into the denim jacket she wore now. And those 4 young men hadn't seen anything yet. She inhaled the scent of cut grass and jet fuel drift from the aviation fields beyond the river. Every step she took deeper onto the yard felt like walking through ghostlight, her younger self whispering from the bricks and arches, "Keep going. Earn it." The gate guards hadn't questioned her entry. Her ID had ensured that. But she tucked it away as soon as the checkpoint closed behind her. She didn't want rank shielding her from truth. She wanted to see how the institution treated just a woman walking its grounds. Apparently, not well. Her father's voice flickered through memory. Rear Admiral James Calloway, the man whose name filled plaques in Bancroft Hall, who'd commanded carrier strike groups and Navy staffs around the globe, who'd built his reputation on quiet, unbreakable integrity. He used to say leadership wasn't a badge. It was a burden. If people followed you, it was because you earned their trust, not because they were forced to salute. His funeral, crisp flags and 21 guns at Arlington, still lived behind her ribs like a bruise that never healed. Coming here again felt like returning to the chapter where everything had begun. She'd barely reached the steps of Bancroft Hall before the midshipmen intercepted her. 4 near graduates with cocky shoulders and gold bars practically already engraved with their names. The first almost collided with her, then snapped irritation instead of apology. A couple of sneers, a gesture toward the visitor center, an assumption she was lost, unimportant, lesser. Then the spit. She cleaned her jacket in a restroom. Not because the stain bothered her. She'd had worse on her uniform in the engine room of a warship, but because she refused to carry someone else's disrespect on her clothing. Her pulse hammered once, twice, then buried itself beneath the iron discipline she'd built since plebe summer. No rank to flash. No need to argue, just remember. That night she sat alone in her temporary quarters. The orders lay flat on the desk like a quiet promise. Lieutenant Commander Nora Calloway, Operations Officer, Leadership Training Division, effective immediately. She brushed a finger along the paper's edge. 3 days. In 3 days, she'd stand before the entire brigade of midshipmen, 4,000 strong, on the Alumni Hall stage. She'd speak about honor, duty, responsibility. She'd be their new overseer for tactical leadership, the officer who would watch, judge, and shape their readiness to command sailors in real danger. She imagined the 4 who had spit on her standing among their peers as she took the stage. She wondered whether their faces would reveal shame, confusion, or denial. What mattered was what came after. The next 48 hours moved like a ship at flank speed. Meetings with command staff, walking training facilities, reviewing schedules. The moment she put on her uniform, the world recalibrated. Salutes, respect, sharp greetings of ma'am, Every ribbon on her chest told a story of nights no one here could picture yet. But she didn't forget. She accessed records. Their names stacked neatly on her screen. Midshipman First Class Carter, Midshipman First Class Enzo, Midshipman First Class Devon, Midshipman First Class Hayes, leadership billets. Above average academics, clean disciplinary files. The Academy saw potential in them. She saw a lesson waiting to be taught. Friday arrived with the precise ceremony only Annapolis could orchestrate. The brigade gathered, rows upon flawless rows of white uniforms gleaming under stage lights. A sea of future officers, a future she intended to protect from arrogance. The commandant spoke. The deputy commandant introduced new staff. When he announced her name, the applause was respectable, controlled. Nora walked out and scanned the rows. There they were. Recognition dropped over their faces like a trapdoor. "Good morning," she began with calm steel in her voice. She spoke of pressure, dreams, and the weight of leadership. Of character revealed when nobody is watching. She didn't have to mention them. They already knew. Some lessons are learned the hard way. Her closing words landed like anchor chain on steel deck. The applause rose louder, not for her, but for what she represented. Later in her office, the knock came. 4 silhouettes in her doorway, covers tucked beneath arms, shoulders tense. "Permission to speak, ma'am." She nodded. They sat. Their apologies came out stiff but sincere. Carter's throat tightened around the words. Enzo's confidence had cracked. Devon looked like he wished he could rewind time. Hayes, the one who'd spat, spoke last, voice small. His father had served with her father. He didn't know. He was ashamed. She let silence deepen, not to punish, but to let truth fill the space. Owning failure takes courage. But courage isn't the finish line. You don't get to lead just because you regret your behavior. You lead when you prove every day that you deserve the trust of the people under you. Her expectations were simple. Documented remediation. 6 months of leadership growth under scrutiny. Failure meant separation. Success meant they'd graduate with a lesson etched into their bones. Dismissed. Their salutes were crisp, not forced, not performative, earnest. They left her office with backs straighter than when they'd entered. She leaned back in her chair. The future of the Navy had just walked out that door, and the fleet would be safer for it. Her father had once told her that disrespect reveals the character of the one who delivers it, not the one who receives it. Today, she'd witnessed that truth unfold. She looked at the flag folded in the shadow box on her wall, the one taken from her father's casket. A life of service done right, a standard she intended to carry forward. They would learn, all of them, because that was the purpose of this place, not to build pride, but to forge leaders worthy of the sailors who would one day trust them with their lives.